Hey everybody, welcome to another Rackspace Cloud Office Hours Hangout. My name's Alan Bush. We're broadcasting live from the Castle, Rackspace's headquarters in San Antonio, Texas. I got a real fun show for us today. We're going to be talking about CDNs. Rackspace is coming out with a brand new take on CDN, and we've got a guest here actually to talk with us about that. Megan Meza, how you doing, Megan?
I'm doing good, Alan. Thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We'll jump in and talk about it here. Let's introduce our co-host as well, Drew Cox. Drew, how are you today?
I'm very well.
Glad to hear it.
Enjoying the slight reprieve in slightly cold weather here in Texas.
Yeah, it got horribly cold here by Texas standards. I mean, down into the 40s, and it was pretty rough there
Frigid.
for a
It's
while
just the
there.
worst.
Yeah, most people's thermometers don't actually go below 50 here, so it was a terrifying experience for them. So it was pretty rough, but looks like we've all made it through. And Megan, you're coming at us from home, so I don't know if you're snowed in there or what, but I think that looks like we all made it.
That's right. I'm not sure as Texans we really have the right to complain about the cold, but we'll go ahead with it anyway.
Oh, we will. We absolutely will. We might not have the right, but we will. Yeah, definitely. So we're going to be talking about the CDN today. So let's talk about that. So Megan, you are a product manager for the CDN. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you've been at Rackspace here for about 6 years, right? And let's talk a little bit about how you got here to Rackspace and what you do here.
That's right. So I started with Rackspace in 2008. I actually started with our email and apps group who handles sort of everything you need to run your office, hosted Exchange, hosted SharePoint, things like that. And then in 2010, I came over to cloud storage. Everybody was moving to the cloud, so I jumped on board and decided to move to the cloud as well. And one of the things that we started noticing almost immediately after we helped customers put all of their large files into cloud, they wanted to serve those files, and they wanted to do that in an efficient manner. So think about a video or heavy images. All those things are very heavy on the internet. They take a long time to go from point A to point B, and the longer point A and point B are apart, the worse that problem gets. And so naturally that led me to CDN, or a content delivery network. We've had a few partners over the year, but I think that we've landed on a great relationship with Akamai right now, and we're really hitting our stride in terms of cranking out features that our customers have been wanting. So that's me. I've been around, again, for about 6.5 years, and I wore a few different hats, but I think that CDN is something that I've been sort of adjacent to for a long time, and I'm excited to bring the offers that we have to market.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. There's a lot of very interesting stuff about the CDN, and I think that's where we're probably going to start. But I do want to encourage anybody that's watching, anybody that might have tuned in to watch, you can join the conversation. So we have a question and answer app here on Google Plus where you can ask that question and we'll answer it. If you have a comment about the show, let us know and we'll loop it in. If you happen to be watching on YouTube, drop a comment there into the YouTube comments, or just drop us a comment on Twitter with the hashtag CloudQA, and we'll answer it there. So there's plenty of information. We have an expert with us here in Megan that can help answer those questions. So let's go in and talk about what a CDN is. I mean, Megan, you already started to talk about that, right? So a CDN helps you to distribute that, right? I mean, it's in the name. It's a content delivery network. So I mean, it's a network of edge devices, right, that store the content and deliver it to customers.
That's right, exactly. I'll get into a little bit more of the bits and bytes of it, though. So like you said, CDN is a content delivery network. What that means is there's a couple of aspects of the whole CDN ecosystem. I'm going to cover a few of them. So the first term is the edge. And what the edge refers to are POPs or points of presence or edge servers. All of these are different names for the servers that are owned by our partner Akamai that are distributed all over the globe. So Rackspace CDN and our customers, we use 230 of these locations. They're in South America, North America, Asia, Australia, India, Europe. They're all over the place. And the idea is that I have a file that my end user in India is requesting. They want to go to these edge servers to get content instead of back to my second term, which is the origin. The origin is what we call your cloud server, your cloud files container, your dedicated server, whatever is serving the content on your website and is sort of that true source. So if you didn't have CDN, where would you be serving your content from? That's what we call the origin. So let's go back to our end user in India. They're going to a site, an American-based site, let's say mywebsite.com, and they want to get the content for that. So when a customer has CDN disabled, they don't have CDN, the way that that person gets that content, they make a request to mywebsite.com, and all the images and all the style sheets, all of those turn into requests that go all the way back to the origin. Let's say that origin is in our Dallas data center. Think about all the miles that that data has to travel to get from one point to the other. That takes time. It adds latency, and it makes your website performance slower. So when a customer has CDN enabled, let's take our user in India again. So a customer has changed their DNS to say, for my website, instead of serving traffic all the way back to my origin, my cloud server, first make a stop at the edge. So our user from India requests content. Let's say that there's an image on that file, on that page. That request goes to their local edge server. They're mapped by all this technology that Akamai has. It says this client IP, the fastest way for them to get this is from this edge server, probably in India, right? So they go to an Indian edge server. There's a cache on that edge server and basically they make the request and said, does this edge server have this content yet? And if not, the edge server will come back and request that from the origin and then cache it on the edge server for a period of time. So one of the things that our customers get confused about at times is, how do I actually get all my files to these 230 locations? Well, you don't. You wait for your end users to request them, because there's no reason for you to push out to 230 locations, let's say South America, if all of your traffic is in Asia and India. So instead of a push model, we employ what's called a pull model, where, again, end user requests it. If it's not at the edge will request it from the origin and then keep it there for a period of time. And then all the other users in India only have to go to the edge and back to request their content. So at a high level, that's how things work.
That's a very good example. I really like how you explained from that end user's point of view, and I think that that's one of the things we need to remember, is that this is really it helps the end user's experience, right? And it definitely helps them out. They get the better experience. But it also helps. I've found it helps out the operator, the site owner, right? And one of those things is when you have files, content that's in the CDN, you don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about it coming from. You don't have to worry about your server serving up that content, right? So it's already, it might be stored on the server, but it will also be stored on that CDN, and that's what will help it to get out there. So you need less compute resources to serve that same amount of content.
Exactly
and
right.
Delivering in parallel as well. It's not just that the server doesn't have to do that specific amount of work, but you have now two delivery points that are both serving content from their site. So it's the same total amount of content, but if they can both run at the same time, you're going to get that advantage as well. And so you're starting to pile on these benefits. It's not just taking work off of the server. It's not just delivering a picture a little bit faster, but you're getting them both delivered simultaneously. So you're starting to see all of these different components come together for a really powerful tool.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of customers know that, okay, my users don't want to wait around on my website for my page to load, but what they don't know is there's real numbers behind that. So 30% of your website traffic will leave if your page hasn't loaded in 3 seconds. It's not a guess. Those are statistics that will happen. And so it's, companies are coming to us and they say, there are real financial benefits to this. I'm losing my customers. I'm losing the people that need to be engaging on my website and watching my content for whatever reason. So I think that when we talk to customers, we try and sort of drive that home with them, is not only is, yeah, you can have a less origins, or yes, you can sleep a little bit better at night because you don't have to worry about DDoS attacks and those bringing your site down, but there's real money behind it as well in terms of customer retention and ROI.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And when you back it up with those numbers, what did you say? 30% will leave if it hasn't loaded in 3 seconds?
That's right. 30 and 3. That's what you got to remember.
30 and 3. Oh man, that's rough. We really want to make sure that that the sites load fast. I mean, there's also the search engine benefit, right? So I mean, that's part of the way that Google ranks search, is how fast a page loads. So there's a lot of value there too. So real quick, just let me reset and mention that anybody that's joining us, this is a Rackspace Office Hours Hangout. We are talking about the CDN, and we have a Rackspace CDN, and we're making a couple of changes to it, and we're going to get in here and talk about that in just a little bit. If you want to join us in conversation, we're going to go ahead and um, and answer a question here. Looks like Skip had a question. We'll answer that here in just a minute. But if you want to ask questions like Skip is, you can use the Q&A app within Google+. You can also drop us a hashtag on Twitter, ask your question, or drop a comment into the YouTube comments, and we can catch them there as well. We'll find them if you have a question. Let's jump in and talk real quick, because I think that this will set up Skip's question. Let's talk about the current iteration of Rackspace's CDN, right? Because the changes that are coming are just now announced, and there is a limited availability. We'll get to that here in a minute, but let's talk about the current iteration of Rackspace's CDN. It's tightly integrated with our product Cloud Files, our container-based storage system. So let's talk about some of the ways that people use the Cloud Files CDN right now. What are Drew, Megan? What are some of those ways that you see people using that most frequently?
I'll give a start there just to sort of set the ground for what we envisioned when we built the CDN for Cloud Files. If you think about it, if you think about CDN for Cloud Files first as a storage product, you see that we have all of these images that are already in Cloud Files, and I want to deliver those images. What we've seen is that customers will sort of try and retrofit that into their website story, but the most common things that we see are customers who are serving, let's say, social media apps, and they have these bits and bytes that might be heavy, like their videos or their pictures, something like that. And so when they want to focus on individual files that need to be accelerated, the Cloud Files CDN is truly the perfect solution for that. Let's say I talked to a company the other day that's a learning company, and they're distributing learning videos. They don't need their entire application backed by CDN, or they don't want it backed by CDN. They only want the videos to be accelerated over CDN. So they upload those videos into Cloud Files, get their CDN URLs for them, and accelerate them that way. Drew, do you have a few use cases you want to discuss as well?
My use cases really get a little bit further into the ability to choose what sorts of links you're using. So if you have something over an SSL, you can pull an SSL enabled link to deliver that content. You've covered the basic approach already, and so I don't have anything really to add there other than to be aware of what you're referencing when you're referencing that CDN link, to be sure that it's going to be compatible with the site that's going to be serving that content.
Yeah, and one of the errors that we see sometimes with CDN, just kind of a thing to be aware of and to watch out for. You might have a site that is secured with SSL, and you might have CDN content that is not secured with SSL. It's not necessarily unsafe to share that content, but most browsers will throw an error and say that part of that content is not secured. And I think that that's the right thing for the browser to do. But that's one of the things that you can do to really make sure that it is just like you said, Drew. Just make sure that you're using the right origin there, and make sure that you have all your links set up the right way. Yep. So that's one of the more common things that we see people using with that container base, right? So keeping your content there. One other thing that I have seen a lot of people use to great success is using the CDN to deliver a sorry page, right? So what happens if your site goes down, something like that. You can store some of that content in the CDN and deliver a 404 page from from the CDN, or a hey, whoops, everything went wrong, all of our servers are offline, we know about it, we're taking care of it, and you can provide a very nice experience for the customer, or not very nice, but a more customized experience that will be better for the customer than just having a just a generic page that says or just doesn't say anything, like a 500 error or something like that. That's not. Yeah,
it's far more preferable to deliver something that's branded, that's the message that you want to share when your site is down for some reason. It may be that you know there's a maintenance and you want to have a maintenance page delivered, and if that's the case, you want to have already branded and structured that page so that It's your site, it's your brand, and it gives your users the information that they would need to know. Maybe check back in 15 minutes. This was more of a problem that they're working on and triaging, not something that was a planned maintenance. So you're able to structure that page for your uses, not just allow the generic response, which makes you look less professional and causes concern on your user base, and could again cause a customer who was beginning to be loyal or who was interested in making a transaction to see you as less reputable, and then you lose that business. So you want to keep those types of use cases in your control, and not just let the generic 404 or 500 just deliver and look like you've been caught unaware. You want to have a process in place. You want to be able to test and verify that that process is going to function the way you need it to.
Yeah, and that kind of comes straight into Skip's question. Skip says, just curious, if my site goes offline for any reason, will the CDN or cache still deliver? So yeah, it will. The problem is sometimes you don't know what to do. So the CDN probably has content, probably has some CSS files stored there, some JavaScript files and images, right? Things like that. Those will still be able to be delivered. So this is what we suggest, is to store that content within within the CDN, like maybe an entire page. Also, with our cloud load balancer, right, you can actually set up a default page if all of the nodes underneath the load balancer go offline at the same time. It will serve up a static HTML page. Now, you can't do very much with that HTML page until you start to incorporate in, say, the CSS. So you have the same look and feel for your existing website. If you have that cached in the CDN, it's going to be there, right? And it's going to be able to be accessed by this static HTML file. The browser will put it all together and deliver a page that looks just like your website if you've coded it correctly, but will say exactly what you want it to say, and not just have some generic error page there. So that's something that we recommend that everybody does. Set up an error page and take advantage of things like the CDN to store your static files, your CSS, your JavaScript, to make that static page have a very similar look and feel to what your general site includes. Yep. Thanks, Skip. Great question as usual. You got a couple more specific questions. We'll jump into those here in a minute. If you want to ask a question like Skip, encourage you to use the question and answer app here on Google+, or drop us a comment via Twitter or YouTube. You can use the hashtag CloudQA to ask those questions. Let's see. I think there's one other thing that I wanted to make sure that we talked about with the existing CDN, and that a good use case for that is serving up an entire site, right? You can actually serve an entire site over just the CDN with no servers involved. A static HTML site will work just fine. Actually, my website, my personal website, goes directly from Cloud Files via the CDN, and it's delivered that way. It works really well. You don't have to worry about. I have a very simple site, right? So this is where it works really well. It's a simple site, and it's distributed all over, all over the place. So we don't have to worry about a single server going down and wrecking the entire site. If the entire Akamai CDN goes down, well, then we probably have bigger issues than just my rinky-dink little blog site there. So that's a benefit there. Megan, Drew, are there any other use cases that we want to make sure to highlight from the existing CDN?
I think we've covered the main ones. I mean, the possibilities are truly endless. Anytime you're serving public content over the internet and you have a heavy file, or even a file that's not that heavy, serve it over the CDN, especially if you're looking to be a little bit more relevant to global audiences, perhaps, things like that. The last thing that we want is for customers who are trying to serve international audiences is to try and, have a poor experience for people in outlying regions. They want to appear like they're a global company. So if you're reaching into international waters, go ahead and, give it a try. It's really worth it. And there's, at least for us at Rackspace, CDN is no more expensive than your regular bandwidth. So for us, it's one of those why not kind of situations.
Yeah, that's a great point. We get asked that question quite a bit, right? Especially people that are brand new to hosting in general, or brand new to Rackspace. Hey, my operation is in the United States, but I have a large contingent in Europe. How do I make the site more accessible? How do I make a better user experience for my customer base, which is largely there? So while we do have a London data center, maybe maybe a London you can use a London data center, but then use the CDN to get further into mainland Europe. Same with Asia, same with Africa, same with South America. That CDN is really going to help to penetrate into those areas and build a better experience. And again, I mean, we keep coming back to that user experience, and that's what this is really all about: is making sure that we have a solid user experience for everybody there. All right, Drew, did you have anything to add to that? You having audio problems?
I was having audio problems, so I'm not sure exactly what you guys covered. I did want to be sure that you pointed people in the direction of tools like Pelican that can allow you to deploy your entire site via the CDN. So if that's been done, then I'm good.
We mentioned deploying on the entire site. Pelican is one that I've used before. Hugo is another one. Jekyll's a very very popular one as well. It's kind of a pick which programming language you want to go with and run with it. And then if you're really old school, you can just code by hand. I mean, just build an entire HTML site by hand and just drop those files into Cloud Files, and it'll start going. So it's pretty easy. Our colleague Justin Phelps actually has a great tutorial on his blog. I'll see if we can find that link and drop it into the comments here, so we can else. The low-hanging fruit on the use cases, like you mentioned, Megan, there's plenty of different use cases out there. But let's talk about the changes that we're making to the Rackspace CDN. I mean, that's the big news here. We've got a limited availability trial coming up for our customers, and we encourage them to join. So tell them what's new and why they would want to join up.
Sure. So if we take this conversation back to what we were thinking when we did Rackspace CDN for Cloud Files, when we did Cloud Files CDN, it was really about individual assets that we knew that customers were going to want to accelerate and push over the CDN. So for customers who just want to accelerate the images on their social media site, or just want to accelerate the videos on their learning application, what Rackspace CDN does is it takes an entire domain and accelerates everything behind that domain. So let me go back to my example about website.com. Website.com has a style sheet, it has a banner, it has images, and a few videos. With Cloud Files CDN, let's say that I want to accelerate everything, but it's just a hassle to upload all those files to Cloud Files, then get the URL, then embed those links into my website. So I just do the videos, right? So what I do is I upload them to Cloud Files, I CDN enable my Cloud Files container, I get the CDN links for those, and then I embed those links into my website. Now I want to take you to the experience for Rackspace CDN. Basically, I'll create a CDN service, and that CDN service maps my domain name to the origin that's hosting my content. So all those images are probably already on my cloud server, right? Because that's where my website is running from. So what this does is I say mywebsite.com can be found at this cloud server, this IP address, or this domain address. Just go find everything and accelerate it over the CDN. I don't have to talk about specific files anymore. I don't have to talk about, I don't have to embed specific links. I leave my website code alone. I don't have to touch it at all. I just set up this service. I make a DNS change, and just like my DNS change with Cloud Files, basically, I'm telling DNS and the internet, when you get a request for mywebsite.com, instead of coming back to my origin, make a stop at the edge first. And then what the edge is going to do is going to read my website code and make all of the fetches back to my origin that need to happen. And that's really what origin pull is. There's origin pulls kind of turned into this weird little industry term, but what it means is what customers want when they're talking about origin pull is Instead of telling you which specific files I want to accelerate over the CDN, I want to just tell you, go accelerate my entire site at mywebsite.com. And you go and figure out all the assets and pull them as you need to. That's what our customers are looking for, and that's what we're in a limited availability with today. And we're really excited about it. We think that we're taking something that sort of people were retrofitting into their websites and making it dramatically easier for them to get up and running with CDN in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, that's been a very much requested feature, I know, the ability to do origin pull. Right now, there are ways to do that. One of the examples that we use a lot is WordPress, right? We have a lot of WordPress users. There are some tools that will do that for WordPress specifically. There's a lot of setup that you have to do, and you have to really understand how it's going to work. But being able to basically say, hey, WordPress, or hey CDN, anything in this domain name, which is a really great feature, by the way, so you don't have to keep updating IP addresses. Anything in this domain, go ahead and pull it into the CDN, pull it from the origin and put it into the CDN. It saves a lot of time and a lot of effort that way. So that's really, really good.
And for us, what it does is it opens up CDN to less technical users, because a majority of people can find the IP address for their web server. The majority of people know their domain name, and they can get a little bit help with creating a CNAME in their DNS tool.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them probably know how to do that as well. You don't have to go mess around with website code. You probably don't even need to involve a developer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and the big value here is time to market. I mean, that's the kind of thing that can really, a lot of people could get to the point where it's done. Even if they're not super technical, they can figure out how to implement the CDN. But is that time expended for good reason, for good cause? It seems like that's the kind of solution that people are looking for, so that they can get back to working on whatever their core competency is, or whatever makes their business unique, or something else that adds value as well. When you can just plug something simple in like that can pull in all of those components in an automated fashion, so that you don't have to go through and take the time and comb through everything. That's a huge advantage. That's something that's going to be revolutionary for someone's approach when they can quickly implement a best practice solution and move on to the next thing.
Right, and one of the things that's interesting is that there have been people in the market who've been doing this for a few years, but what we've learned from our customers is that people want to come to Rackspace and ask the same person all 5 of their questions, right? They want to get a bill for all 5 of their products, and they want to manage them from their control panel where they can see all of these products interacting with each other. A lot of times we link across products on our control panel. What we've learned is that customers want to get a portfolio experience from Rackspace, and that really includes a true CDN experience. We've seen people taking what we have with CloudFile CDN and sort of trying to put with a round peg into a square hole. But what we've done is, now that we've brought our technology sort of up to speed, we have it backed by far and away the industry's best CDN provider. So people who know about CDN know about Akamai. We hear our customers saying, I sleep better at night just knowing that Akamai is behind it. I just know that nothing's going to go down. They're not one of these new players that just sort of spun up, and we're using 230 of their locations. Some of our competitors, that's 4 and 5 times the number of locations that they have. So I feel like, again, like I said a little bit earlier, I feel like we've finally sort of hit our stride in terms of finding the right partner that we know our customers trust, making it very simple for our customers to enable it, and just giving them the experience that they're looking for in terms of a whole portfolio offer.
Going back to customer experience, I mean that's
Right.
that's really what the theme of today is what is your user, what's their experience. And so our customers are the site owners, right, the creators. Their customers are the ones, and I guess by extension they're our customers as well. They're the ones that are actually accessing that content, accessing those sites. And if we want our customers to be successful, we need to give them those tools, and it sounds like we've given them a great new tool. Again, Drew, I think he hit the nail on the head with the time to market. That's a great point. Megan, you mentioned you don't even need to bring in a developer. That is another issue that I've seen quite a bit. With new users, I spent a lot of time, Drew did as well, on the cloud launch team. We're working with brand new customers to Rackspace. a lot of them are just looking for a host it and forget it solution. And I do think that forgetting about it is probably a bad idea in general, but getting out to market easily is a key component that we can provide, and not having to modify your application, not having to touch a single line of code to take advantage of Origin Pulse CDN. That's very important to our customers. I'm really excited to see what that brings, and what new innovations our customers can bring by not having to spend time redeveloping their application to work with the CDN.
Yeah, and
I was,
go ahead.
go ahead.
We're getting a lot of conversations with customers about this. Obviously, we're very excited. And the question that keeps coming up is, okay, and then what do I need to do to tell you that I'm going to turn it on? And we're explaining to customers, the network is so big. You don't have to talk to us about how much traffic you're going to have. You don't have to plan for traffic spikes. This is sort of the kind of solution where, just trust us. It's going to work. You don't need to tell us about it. You don't have to go through this huge setup like we've been talking about. And I think customers have been pleasantly surprised so far that there's so little to it. A lot of my conversations end with, "That's it?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's it."
I think one of the things that makes the CDN so near and dear to my heart is we talk about all kinds of best practices on this show. And some of those are incorporating a CI/CD approach, or getting to a point where you can automate your deployments, and things that are going to take time to work forward to get to. And they're not things you can flip a switch and overnight be implementing a best practice in the cloud world. It's just, there's more to it than that. But when you talk about the CDN, it really is a very simple way to apply a best practice that's going to have huge impact on your customer's experience, on the way you can easily manage and maintain your environment, and the overhead that the solution you have in place now can leverage, because that was work that was originally being asked of your servers and now is no longer being tasked. Those servers are not being tasked with that any longer. So they have more resources they can use for other things, and you can grow further. And this is a very simple way to take on one of these best practices and be a far cloudier solution very quickly. And a lot of the things we talk about aren't as easy to implement. And so it's really exciting to be able to really highlight and talk through something that really isn't hard to use, but has a huge impact. Bang for your buck is enormous.
Yeah, and we touched a little bit on this earlier about how Rackspace has done a pretty good job about building data centers across the globe so that we can leverage different markets and get our users' content closer to their users. But if a customer wants to have a website server or a web server in London and they want to have one in Hong Kong, they have to find a way to keep all those things in sync. What CDN allows them to do is have one central source of truth and then just figure out the delivery of it, rather than having multiple sources of truth. So I think you're right, where CDN is one of those things that really is becoming industry standard in terms of web applications and websites, and it's one of the easy wins. So yeah, great point.
Yeah, we like those. Definitely like those easy wins and ways to extend beyond. Well, I think that Skip had a couple, but Megan, let's talk about how customers can get involved with the trial, right? So it is it's a limited availability right now. As we start to roll it out, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yep. So it's important for us to get things right here. We're all super competitive, and we just don't want to get things wrong. So along with that, we want to make sure that we get this rolled out correctly. We're in a limited availability program today. What we're looking for is for customers to come use our control panel, get set up on CDN, and tell us, "I'm having trouble changing my DNS. Help me with that." Or, "I can't find in the control panel where to enable my logs." Or, "I don't really get the concept of origins and edge servers." And so the idea for the next month or so is to allow customers to come in and start using early access in a controlled manner. We're not going to open up the floodgates quite yet. And we're going to figure out what our customers have questions about. Then we're going to build knowledge center articles around that, web tutorials around that, host webinars on it. So you can see my blog here. I announced the early access program about a week ago, or I guess on Monday. And I go through some basic features here, and at the very end, you can see that there's an application to fill out if you want to be involved in the early access program. And we'll make sure that we get you guys the link to this blog. And it's very basic. Just tell us who you are and what you want to use CDN for, and then we'll get you set up. If you're interested, we'd love to use you in a case study, and can be good good branding for you, and helps our users understand how to use CDN. But early access is designed, again, get you started, allow you to test it in a controlled manner, give us some feedback on things we can improve, and that way by the time we roll out in late March, early April to the rest of our customer base, we have all these questions answered for them. So that's the idea behind it.
Great. Yeah, and it's a great way to experience the CDN firsthand before others get a chance to use it, and really to start to understand it. Is there any particular type of customer, any particular use case that you're really looking for, any weird use cases that you're trying to test against that we can advertise here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we want to see customers who are using CDN outside of cloud files. We've learned about cloud files a lot over the last 4 years. We want to see people who are running websites solely on their cloud server, or even our customers who are using our cloud sites product. Something that would be incredibly interesting is a customer who is running a site both on a dedicated server and a cloud server. Because one of the great things about Rackspace CDN is, you know, all we need is a public endpoint. So we're no longer limited to just the cloud side of our business. We have all these dedicated customers who also need CDN. So if you're a hybrid customer and you have a website that's spanning multiple servers or across dedicated and cloud, you're probably my dream customer for early access. But again, we want to see people outside of cloud files for this one, because we've already sort of learned a lot about that.
Yeah, well, hey, that's very interesting that you would say that you're looking for our hybrid customers. It looks like Skip is who's been asking a couple of questions here, might be that type of a user. So Tyler, if you don't mind popping up Skip's question about his F5 compatibility, it looks like Skip has a hybrid environment. He's got an F5 load balancer, and he wants to know, would there be compatibility issues between the CDN and the F5 load balancer, or the alert logic? Is that intrusion detection service? I think the IDS there.
Yes.
Are there any known issues that would be incompatible there?
No, the only thing that we need to think about is if you have a firewall in place that's only allowing certain IP addresses to come in. I think that's really where we start to hit a few bumps. There's no easy way to identify all the IPs that a CDN will come from. Again, we use a massive amount of servers from Akamai, and it's 230 locations, but there's tens or hundreds of servers behind each of those locations, right? So it's just not feasible for us to set a whitelist for the CDN. But if you don't have a firewall set up with a whitelist, what we advise that you do is actually set your load balancer as the origin for your site, and then your load balancer will sort of figure out which server it needs to go pull from.
Oh, great. So the F5 itself will work on it as well. So. And it sounds like Skip might be in that edge case demographic that you were looking for there. So Skip, if you're listening to this, get in touch and we'll hook you up there with that. He also asked a follow-up question about, if I had my SSL within the S5, would that extend to the CDN link? So I think that's exactly what you just mentioned there, is to kind of put the origin right there on the F5 itself, and then.
Well, so I do want to talk about this, because SSL is something that customers are really expected to do these days in terms of what's becoming market standard. And we require two things to serve over HTTPS. One is that you have an SSL certificate at your origin, which it sounds like you do on your F5. And you also need to have an SSL certificate on the edge. So we offer two options around SSL certificates. You can either have a certificate that's fully owned by you, and that comes at a little bit of a heftier price tag at $730 a month. Or for customers who are a little more price conscious, you can purchase a SAN certificate. Basically, you would share a certificate with other customers that Rackspace owns, but you can still use your own domain name, and you can serve over HTTPS. And the importance is that, as you guys know, SSL certificates are typically issued on a per server basis. And so we're talking about hundreds of thousands of servers that we need to get your SSL certificate on at the edge. And so basically Akamai has agreements with the certificate authorities to basically come with a package price to get your SSL certificate across all of the edges. So yes, your SSL certificate will work for your origin certificate, but you would have to purchase another certificate to serve SSL from edge to origin, and from origin to edge to end user. And we can make sure to get you information on the differences between a SAN certificate and a dedicated certificate. I think that SAN certificates will probably be fine for the vast majority of customers.
Oh, great. That's good. That's a really good explanation, too. I think that we will start to see a lot more customers with that question. So really good to know how to do that. Answered Skip's questions there. I really hope that Skip gets in touch and we can work with him there on that. Well, I guess that's about all that I had down in the notes that we wanted to cover today. Drew, Megan, did we forget anything yet?
No, I just want to make sure that we make it really easy for people to get in touch with us. I think that you already have quite a handful of ways to get in touch with you guys specifically, but if you have questions about CDN in particular, very easy, cdn@rackspace.com. It'll go to myself and a few of our developers and operations teams, so we can answer any of your questions from technical to non-technical to pricing. cdn@rackspace.com. Even if you just want to email that for the early access program, we can get you hooked up there.
I think that brings out the point that you should definitely reach out to Rackspace with questions before necessarily banging your head on something that could be frustrating for the long term. So we're here to help. We want to be able to deliver solutions that are going to be valuable to you. That's one of the reasons we do this show. We want to be sure that we get good information into the hands of people who can use it. And so if you think you've got it, but you've got a couple questions, go ahead and package up those questions and send them our way so that we can do what we can to get them resolved. And answers are usually pretty easy at hand because we have experts on so many things here within this organization. We can usually pull the person who's got the deep knowledge of that topic and get that question answered.
Absolutely. We're more than happy to help. We like the easy questions more than any of them. We get them quick.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely like those. All right, well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thank you very much, Megan, for taking a little bit of time out of your afternoon to join us. Really appreciate you. Great insights and really educational. I'm very excited to see this product grow within Rackspace and see how it impacts our customers and their customers as well. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great to talk to everybody about this, and I look forward to getting some applications for early access and getting some feedback.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Drew, as always, thanks for joining us and hosting and providing insight. Great insights as usual.
Always happy to help.
All right, well, I guess we'll go ahead and sign off. We do this every Thursday, roughly 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Central Time. Next week, I think we're going to have a special guest, Major Hayden, a racker, going to be joining us, talking about some interesting things. And again, we do this every week. So if you're watching and have an idea for a show, let us know. We're happy to hear it. And like you mentioned, Drew, we want to provide solutions and use cases and best practices for our customers. So that's probably no better place to get them than directly from our customers. So send us your show submissions, and we're happy to hear them and bring up what we can. All right, thanks for watching. See you later.